Hello, it's Jesse here, and we're back on the 40 UH again. We're going to work on putting the front end on in this segment here. So we're kind of got some stuff prepared. We're going to work on getting the ball bearings all greased up, and there's a certain procedure to doing this, so we're going to try to work our way through it, and we'll see how it comes out. This might be a struggle a little bit because this front end is heavy, and we'll go from there. We'll work on getting the tension right from the left and right, and then we'll work on probably maybe installing the, well, we got to put the top triple tree on, practically the handlebar assembly, and then the dampener over there, we got to put that on too. We'll talk through all this stuff hopefully in this segment. So anyway, let's get started here. So starting off with the assembly, we got to make sure we have this lower race guide piece in there. This works as a centering agent for the lower race retainer, bearing retainer piece. This sits inside of that, on top of that, and centers. If you don't have that on, there isn't enough clearance in the neck cups, and it'll actually probably grind into this thing. They started this piece in 1938 and went all the way to 1948 because the way the 36 and 37 big twin Springer front fork was designed, it just didn't need it. So according to the Palmer book is written that way. So right now we're getting the lower race right now. We're got it greased up, and we're going to install the bearings into it. Alright, so we got one of the retainers with the ball bearings on it ready to go. We're finishing up this one right here, and then we have the inner bearing cups lubed a little bit for grease because we want grease on all parts of that bearing, ball bearing, and we got the top ungreased as well. So next up here, we're gonna work on setting them in. I'm gonna pick up this Springer front end here and slide it up into the neck here, and then we're gonna run down this retaining piece here, the lock, and then just kind of hold it so I don't have to sit there and hold it the whole time. And then we'll work on stuff from there. All right. Got it? Yep, got it. Now we're putting the top race on with the ball bearings.
And the grease?
And we got flipped, yeah, we got greased. So the whole reason for greasing is to help hold them balls into place, because we've got to flip it over right now. They don't all fall to the floor.
Just could have had it over
There we go. Yeah, there you go. Now the crown nut. Oops. Long-winded.
fine threads. Keep holding it up. Very close.
Okay, here we go, we got it on there. Alright, so both the crown nut here has a taper on it, so it helps self-center it as you tighten it up. And along with that little piece I was showing you earlier that attaches to the fork itself. The Springer front end and the frame have a built-in fork stop, which is this right here. This little protrusion on the fork, and this little piece here on the frame. And you got it on both sides. So next, we'll work on putting the handlebar assembly on, because that's the other part of it. And then what happens is we adjust this nut with the handlebars, and then we'll lock down it with that oval shaped piece right there. It's got a pin built into it. It's looking pretty good. So we have the tension set on the crown nut here, really kind of where we want it at, and then our wires. These get wired up to the horn bracket assembly up here and stuff, and they get routed up to the front here, along here inside of a loom. So we get to that when we're working on the horn and headlight stuff. But so once you have your crown set for your tension, you got to line it up with the hole this pin on this piece here goes into. There's one on the top side and there's one on the bottom. It didn't line up with that one, so we flipped it and put on the bottom one here. And then this crown nut comes through here and pinches it all together. And we tighten this all up. Alright, so we got this all snugged up. We're not going to go pretty much any farther than this on the front end, because this whole segment is going to be mostly trying to get that front fender fitted. I should have mentioned this from the beginning, but anyways, we're going to get this front fender fitted, so we're preparing the fender to get painted. So that'll be the next thing we work on putting on, and get the wheel on there, make sure it all sits good. But other than that, I got the pinch bolts here started, but the lock washers aren't engaging yet, because in case we have to take it back off again. But so far this is how we route it. So let's move on to installing the front fender and then the wheel stuff. So here's the fender we're going to be using. This is a B-twin replica fender. It is a 50-894 replica fender. I'm not here to promote this fender or not promote it. We're just going to be going over my personal experience with it, because I need a fender. The fender I had was actually this bike didn't have a fender when I had got it. It was off, it was like a bobber or something, so it was like missing. So anyways, this is a two-piece spot welded skirt panels pieces here, which is correct to the original style fender. And we went with the 894, which is the one without the fender lamp. I didn't want to run a fender lamp on my bike. I've seen a lot of bikes without it and with it. I just preferred not to use that one, because you can get the one with the fender lamp provision, and that would have been a 50-895. But anyways, we're gonna work on getting this set on here. So what you got to do is the bottom part here, where it mounts to the front end there, it's got a little notch for you to go into. So you hook this up onto here, run it onto the studs coming through here, and then on the back here, the other part mounts onto here. A bolt comes through the bottom and holds, it's a tapered bolt, and then there's a nut on the top that holds it down, and a washer, of course. So we'll work on doing that. And if you remember from the videos when we built this front end, I had a different style spacer here. This is the true 40 and older spacer, and the one that was on there was one that had a groove. This actually came out in 41, but I just thought maybe I should have that one instead, because this is a 40. So anyway, let's work on getting this fender mounted here. Alright, so to install this front fender, according to procedure, we need to remove the rockers down here. And so we'll start off by bending these tabs back, because we had assembled this all the way when we built this to begin with, so we sat around, we didn't lose parts and whatever. But anyways, we gotta bend these tabs back and remove these components off of here. In the next procedure, part of this procedure, is we install the bolts here holding it up, put this stuff back on, because the fender is too wide to fit through here as is. So, and that's how it is. It's not like it's made wrong or anything. That's how this is designed and how the procedure goes. So then we put this stuff back on and assemble it from there. So we're going to work on getting this stuff off here and jump ahead to where we're putting this fender on. Okay, here we go. We're gonna put this fender up in here now. Let's see how it goes. And then we're not final installing this, so I'm still putting the machine side to the nut down. Just get it started there. And then the other side. I'll come over there. Alright, there we go. And let's put this one down. For now. Lock washer goes there too, but we're not final installing like I just said, so. Alright, here we go. It'll hold it for now. Alright, so we gotta kind of install this somewhat fully because the next part is we gotta mount the horn here. Something else we gotta do.
We gotta put the rockers on.
And we gotta line that back up. We gotta install the rockers yet. So we gotta make sure when we go put this horn on, when we mark the holes to drill the holes, we have in the right spot. So this part's pretty crucial right here. There, we got the rockers installed here on both sides, and then we just got it down in the notch here. We'll work on putting the clips and stuff back on here. And then the retaining nut in the back side. For now anyway, we're not going to tighten this up, of course, because
Obviously it has to come back.
yes, obviously it has to come back apart because we have to take the fender off again to have it painted, but for right now, we're just going to loosely install this stuff. Alright. And then there's a... Whoops, what happened there?
It don't look right.
I have it back up, so did it move? Oh yeah, it moved. There. Just wanted to rotate. Yeah, there you go. Hold on. Okay. Go work on the other side now real quick. So to properly install this, we're going to pull the fender forward, get it in this notch back here, this special clip here. There's a left and a right, so it falls right into that this groove here.
Supposed to.
Yeah. There it goes. I actually picked the right one right first. Okay, so then run this down. Later when we have installed the painted fender, of course we'll mount all this stuff properly with bending the tabs and everything, but we're not to that point yet. Alright, I'm going to do the other side real quick. So with all that stuff installed, the fender's sitting kind of where it needs to be sitting at. Next we'll install the horn by mounting it here and seeing where it lines up down here. Make sure it's parallel with the springs and the fork. So with the horn connected to the top of the fork right there, and it's parallel with the springs, looks like. But the biggest thing is making sure it's resting flat here, because if it's too far forward, then it kicks up in the front. If it's too far back, then it kicks up in the back, this little bracket does. So it sits pretty flush right there. I think we're good to mark it right there. So we'll mark it with a marker so we have an idea where to drill it at. There we go. We'll clean all that up. Alright, let's get ready to mark some holes and maybe drill them.
This one?
Looked like it was. I checked it with the screw, and it looks like it should be the one. Here we go. We got the screws on there. And it looks like it lined up really well where we have it. There's a bracket reinforcement plate that goes underneath, and then followed by a lock washer and a nut, but we won't be putting it all on tight right now anyway. So, well, there we go. We got the fender mounted. It looks good on there like that. We're happy with this. This V-twin fender kind of went together pretty good. We didn't really have to modify it at all, other than having to drill the holes for our horn, but other than that, it went right on. And yeah, I think this is good to say that it's ready to get painted, but we're gonna work on getting some other stuff fitted here and get it on wheels. We're gonna install the front wheel and stuff, I believe, yet, and then work on the tanks. So after getting the handlebars mounted there, we routed the cables. So the spark control cable, this one here on the left side, it comes down and goes on the routes kind of to the top here, and it actually comes down. It'll be below the motor because this one actually goes between the cylinders when they're in here. And then with the throttle one, it comes on this side as well, because just the way they routed them, even with the knuckleheads and the flatheads, you've got to route the throttle cable on this side, because on this side the carburetor sits on the left side on the flathead. It's on the right side on the knucklehead, but it loops around differently when it goes between the heads and stuff. We'll get to that when we get to that point, but just kind of for now, we got the cables kind of just laying here like this. So anyway, here's the front Springer front brake. This is a 40 and earlier style. There are different differences here and there with certain things like the grease zerk, the size this anchor stud is that runs the cable and stuff. I did a previous video on rebuilding this front brake. You can look for that one. Otherwise, this thing's ready to go on the bike now. So we're going to work on putting the drum on the wheel right now. So this front wheel is the same as the rear, like I've said before in the previous segment, part 3, when we were doing the rear wheel. It's interchangeable hub, so I'm just using a special tool here and running these lug bolts down in here to tighten that drum onto this star hub. So I'm going to run it down in a pattern here so it kind of comes down evenly. This kind of procedure there. This is able to be done on the bike, but I don't have the backing plate and everything all set up yet. So I'm going to install this a little bit differently here. The nice thing about this, though, you can do it any way you want, but it was designed a certain way to do certain things, be able to do certain things. So we got the backing plate installed here. Installed the little cork washer piece, and then that we had to do this. We couldn't use the camera at the time because we needed both of us to put it on here. But anyways, the spring, and then there's this little flat washer here. And then there's that collet that goes in here and holds all this together to this side so that it free stays here at that time. And then, of course, you saw me put the drum on the wheel, and then we put it on there, and we ran the axle through, and the fender looks like it's centered in the wheel really well. So it looks like we got this thing looking pretty good. And then now we'll move on to something else here with maybe doing the tanks next. So anyway, we got this fender to fit. Turned out pretty good. It did say in the V-twin book you might have to slightly modify it a little bit to make it fit right, which we did. We had to bend it a little bit to get it to be centered, and of course we had to mount our horn. But anyways, I think it's turned out really well, so I'm happy with this fender. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this one. Next time we'll be working on probably trying to get them tanks to fit on the bike here, and then making sure they'll work with like other things, like making sure the fuel shut off is aligned and all that stuff too, before we get ready to paint it, because that we gotta make sure that fits before we paint as well. So, all right, we'll see you again soon.